Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 6 of the Australasian Sim Racing TCAC Le Mans Retro Minis Championship. I am Michael Olivari, and tonight we are at Brands Hatch for the Grand Prix of England, apparently, according to the holding screen. Should it be the Grand Prix of Britain? I'm not sure. Either way, we are racing the endurance format tonight, which means 150-minute race. Surprisingly, it's not covered in rain, which would be very fitting for England. But here we are tonight for round 6. I'd like to welcome everyone. Oh, and for some reason, it still says the Grand Prix of Virginia. That's not right. Either way, we're racing at Brands Hatch tonight, and it's sure to be a good race. I had a bit of a run earlier on in these cars around this circuit, and it was an absolute blast through the flowing fields of Kent. Certainly very different to where we were at last time out at the Virginia International Raceway. Less of the long straights, less of the more twisty-turny stop-start sections, and more about flow and drive and about making sure that you keep the momentum up tonight. And it's going to be a great race. We've got a significant Class A entry tonight, which should be really, really good. A little bit of a lack of numbers in Class B and C, which is unfortunate, but it should still be a very enthralling race up at the front. We'll check out our race info tonight. We are at Brands Hatch. This is, of course, one of the longest standing circuits in Britain. We're running the endurance layout tonight, so that's qualifying for 15 minutes and then one 50-minute race featuring pit stops and all the like. Brands Hatch, what a circuit, what an absolute classic example of what a racing circuit can be. Of course, diving down through Paddock Hill Bend into Druids, and then Graham Hill and Graham Hill Bend take you onto that little cutout in the middle there, through Surtees that takes you down the back, down through Pilgrim's Drop and up through Hawthorne Hill, that sweeping right-hander that's cambered inside, then dancing over the top of the hill, through Westfield, down Dingledale, then back up through Sheen Curve, one of the coolest corners on the track in my opinion, then through to Stirling's that brings you that back onto the back straight, that 90-degree left-hander right at the middle of the image, through Clearways, and then the Clark Curve that brings you back onto the main straight. A beautiful flowing circuit, and we've already heard, or I heard earlier from some of the drivers how some love this circuit and some are absolutely finding flying these cars through that quicker section a joy, and how some of the teams and some of the drivers hate this circuit and who'd rather be racing somewhere that's more stop-start because they can't get a handle on how the car floats over that middle sector. So that's what we've got to look forward to throughout the evening. We've got about 10 minutes left in practice, so what I'll do actually is we'll jump on and we'll have a quick little look at some practice action. So we're just here with Steve Bolger at the moment. It's sitting in 4th. Steve Bolger is 2nd in the Class A Championship at the minute, but is carrying the largest weight penalty. So that's another complicating factor, and we'll talk a little bit more about those weight penalties when we look at the championship between the practice and qualifying. So we'll just follow Steve as he goes around a lap. So locking up the inside through Pilgrim's Drop, Paddock Hill Bend rather, and then up towards Druids. In the background there, you can see both Cracker and what looks like Nathan Higginson as Steve Bolger comes through Druids. Cracker currently with the fastest time at the minute, ahead of Will Devenish and Termo, as Bolger just drops through Graham Hill Bend and towards the first sector mark, and he's up on his PB, not too far away from the fastest time in practice, as he swings his way through this very difficult corner at Surtees. It's very hard to pick where the apex is because the track's coming, it's almost cresting as you come over the hill. But now here's the fun part of the track. Through Pilgrim's Drop, underneath the bridge, and then rising back up onto Hawthorne Hill and Hawthorns. Beautifully cambered inside of the track there. You can really carry a lot of pace. And then this is all about floating and dancing your car through Westfield, ride the curb on the outside, drop through Dingledale, and then back up towards Sheen. off camber, really rewards commitment here. You can use a lot of curb, and then the track disappears as you come over the crest. And bulges up very nicely as he comes through Sterling's and back onto the back straight. It's been a very nice lap from Bolger. A nice lap that we've been able to catch here, actually. As we come now through clearways and onto Clark Curve. Again, dipping, very difficult corner. It rises, then dips. And then you just ride it all the way to the outside of the track. And that's a lap of Brands Hatch. And it's currently the best time that we've seen so far tonight. There we go. So that was a bit of a treat for everyone in the audience, of which we have Mr. Walshy, Brian Walsh. Good to see you, Walshy. Hope the back's holding up well. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us tonight, as well as a few of the other Wildcat machines. So no Manuel Centino either. Unfortunately, no Mike Coulston either. He's held up at work this evening. Unfortunately, no Saudi Camel. But we'll just have a look through the field. Here's Termo, currently the best Class B car in the Ferrari 312P. He was the first one to drop into the 139s in practice, so pretty impressive considering he's in the Class B car. Leonard Grossel joins us again. He's now driving a Class C machine after taking the Solar Productions 908 out for a spin at Sebring. He's in the Chevron C16 tonight, and the rotary one as well. Matt Cecil is back with the Ford GT. He's now in 7th spot, as Will Devonish has jumped up the order. He's now the quickest Class B runner, so we'll catch up with him in a sec. We also got Pedro Rodriguez running in a Class C car. Now that's weird. This is, of course, the cycling through of Lewis Wedding's names that he's done. He's done a lot of work in finding references to the old races, and we'll hear a little bit more about Pedro Rodriguez later on tonight. It wouldn't be Brands Hatch without talking about the BOAC 1970 race, so we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well. Here's Nathan Higginson. He's back in Class A in the Lola. Good to see him back in the machine. And we got Ricky Slick. For those who remember AMS Oz, Ricky Slick was a bit of an enigma, but we're pretty sure that this version of Ricky Slick, this reborn version of Ricky Slick, is Brendan Ross. And if it's not, well, then we've all been duped, haven't we? We've also got Cam Rutledge and Rhodey in the Matras. Awesome feature last week, if you missed that, by Cookie Monster FL. Well, not last week, sorry, last round out. By Cookie Monster FL, Austin Zetzman, one of our Endurance Chat podcasters. So he put together a great feature on the Matras that you can find on our YouTube channel. And Dane Liccardo hasn't put a lap together quite yet, but he's been very vocal about his unhappiness with the track. And we've got a new, it's not a pole man, but a new fastest lap time. Ujit Mishra returning to the series in the 5:12. It's now got currently the fastest time. So that's pretty exciting. Good to see him back in the 5:12. Good to see as many people as we can back in the 5:12. And he's up again. That's half a second. That's a big margin to be up as he takes the wide line through Surtees and drags it back in on the apex. Looking very tidy in the Singapore Airlines machine. Very nicely through Hawthorne Hill and Hawthorns. And now plunging down through Westfield. It looks very smooth, very clean. He's not really had to overcorrect the car too much, and he's using all the road as well. So very nicely done through Dingledell and through Sheen. Has to take a little bit of the power off there, and he's lost a bit of time, but it's still very impressive. Final sector now, just the run down Clearways and through Clark Curve. That'll be all he has to do to get through to the line. And it's looking very smooth. This might even be a lap underneath the 138s, or in the 138s rather, and it is 138.9. Incredible lap from Ujit Mishra. He's going to be very competitive if that's the sort of pace he can crank out. So who else have we got here tonight? Steve Bolger, we've seen him, cracker. Early pace setter, hopefully looking to get to keep his championship lead tonight. There's Will Devonish. He's been the class of the Class B runners for most of the series so far, so we'll keep eyes on how he does. Turmo, we've seen Matt Cecil. Unfortunate to catch him just going wide at Paddock Hill Bend. There's Leonard Grossel. Cam Rutledge, we've seen Rhodey. Mike Coulston. Mike Coulston's made it. Oh, fantastic. Great to see the Saudi Camel in the mix and defending his championship. So great to see him here tonight and bolstering up that Class C entry. Pedro Rodriguez now in the 908. Still not quite the right car just yet. Oh, actually, the 908 was raced by the John Wyer the John Wyer Porsche team in the Nordschleifer and the Targa Florio, as Lewis does a great job of spinning that run around for us. So it is on brand with the golf sponsorship as well. It is all brand. Pedro Rodriguez in a Porsche. We'll accept it. And so far he has yet to set a lap time. So 2.5 minutes left, or 2 minutes 50 seconds left in practice. What we'll do is, while this is going on, we'll have a quick look at the point standings. So at the moment, it is Cracker leading Class A with 110 points. That lead has been cut down to 106 points over Steve Bolger after Bolger won the last time out at VIR. At the moment, Steve Bolger has 30 additional kilos, which puts him above the 600 kilo mark for these cars, whereas Cracker only has 10 kilos. So that's a point of difference, but it doesn't seem to be affecting Bolger too much because he has the fastest car, or the second fastest car at the moment. Nathan Higginson is in third place, and then Glenn Miles, Luke Rosella, and Urjit Mishra. So hopefully Mishra will be looking to put some more points in the bank and try and jump up the order a little bit. In Class B, it is Will Devonish from Turmo, 16 points the gap in that battle, and only 5 kilograms the difference between the two. Will Devonish has 20 kilograms on board, Turmo has 15, so very tightly matched, and very tightly matched on the timing screen at the moment as well. We'll see how that plays out through qualifying and the race. Then it's Matt Cecil, Luke Joyner, Lachlan Burke, and Leonard Grossel. A point on Luke Joyner, heard that he was having a little difficulty getting ready tonight. His computer having to do some Windows updates. So he might be here, but he might miss out. Fingers crossed that we see him at least for the race session. No Lachlan Burke tonight, unfortunately, it looks like. But we do have Leonard Grossel, except he's in a Class C car. In Class C, it's Mike Coulston from Benjamin Rhodes. Now, that's a championship battle that is very tight at the top. Mike Coulston currently has 15 kilos on board, and Benjamin Rhodes only 10 kilos, so they are very tightly matched as well. At the moment, it is Rhodey with a fast lap time due to the serendipity of Coulston not having set a lap time yet. But that will be a very close run thing throughout the evening. Cam Rutledge sits in third ahead of Scott Morrill. Unfortunately, Scott doesn't appear to be here tonight. We saw some great pace from him earlier on in the season, so hopefully we'll be able to see him a bit later on. Manuel Centino won't be making it tonight, and Joe Bonnier, which is Lewis Wedding, I guess will have his points carried over from being Pedro Rodriguez. I'm not sure. Either way, Lewis has 10 kilos to contend with in the Chevron this evening. We'll just quickly dip back to the last throws of practice action. And we'll see if we can just find our way onto the main straight here. Nope. Well, we tried and we failed miserably. And so the lesson is, don't do these things live. Do them ahead of time. This will do, as we're just watching the last few cars come in. There goes, looks like Matt Cecil and Turmo crossing the line. Turmo improves to 4th in this practice session. Then Nathan Higginson, we just caught him on camera a little earlier. He finishes off his session. And it looks like we'll be getting ready for qualifying at any tick of the clock. By the way, if you want to follow on the endurance, with the endurance format tonight, there might be some gaps throughout the field. If you want to follow on the live timing service, it's actually changed the URL this time around. As we see, I think that's Rhodey over in the background, just having a bit of a spin. As we've got a dead heat coming across the line between Steve Bolger and Mike Coulston. Bolger actually set the fastest lap time at the end of that session, a 38.3, so a huge improvement at the end of the session there for the Bulge. So he's looking very pacey. Yes, the live timing service. Live timing service has changed thanks to the work by the admins porting over from Automobilista Sim Racing to ASR, Australasian, AMS Oz rather, to ASR. I'm just noticing that I'm losing a bit of frames. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick checkaroonie, see what other programs are on, and see if I can improve that frame rate for you guys. Probably don't need all of that going, all that going, all that going. Either way, as I was saying, we are now on asrleague.liveracers.com. So if you want to follow along with the live timing service, that's where you'll find it. Thank you very much to the work that all the admins have done through the transition from AMS Oz to ASR, because I know it has been quite a involved process, and so it's great that we actually have this all worked out for us, so that way we can enjoy some racing. And here we are for the qualifying session. So 15 minutes of qualifying, that will equate to about 8 or 9 laps, I think, if the guys are quick about it. Of course, this is going to be one of the shorter laps of the series, with only 3.8 kilometers instead of the 6 or 7 kilometers that we've been seeing in series past. In racetracks past. Still struggling a little bit with frame rate, so what I might do actually is, if we go off that screen, there will do. I'll just see if I can just turn off all my extensions, so that way I can perhaps try and improve the frame rate just a little bit more. Because I'd much rather give you guys a stable stream than a stream that's splotchy and crap and droppy and framey and all that sort of stuff. Might just be because this is actually a stock track. It's got a little too high of a graphics capability for my poor old PC to deal with. And it looks like we are away in this qualifying session as the group gets very crowded on exit. So once more, it will be a 15-minute qualifying session around this 3.9 kilometer circuit. Each of the classes will be scored individually, but they will line up on the grid in the order of their fastest laps. So while it is important to get as far up the grid as you can, the most important thing is making sure that you are ahead of your class rivals. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll keep you abreast of all the class battles throughout the qualifying session, and we'll see how we go heading into the race. So the surprise of the session was Ujit Mishra being up right at the pointy end, second place, as though we got a spinner in the background already. That looked like one of the Matras. I think I just caught it on the side view there, and it was Cam Rutledge. So we'll have a quick peek at what happened to Cam here, coming through Surtees. It looks like he just ran just a little wide, got a wheel or two off in the grass, and just hooked it on the way back in. So unfortunate for Cam. We also saw Will Devenish off in the background. Unfortunate for the pair of them. It looks like first driver on track will be... No, first driver to set a lap will be Matt Cecil, perhaps? Or Ujit Mishra. So what we'll do is we'll find this pair, and there they are. So we'll actually jump on with Ujit Mishra, as he will be the first one to set a lap in anger around this Brands Hatch circuit. How beautiful does that 917 sound? It's an absolute work of art. Comes through Paddock Hill Bend. A little bit of curb on the inside, which has unsettled the car, but he does nicely to recover it. Did better than Matt Cecil did, as he comes now through Druids. Nicely done here. You can really start to try and power out a little bit using the Ferrari engine. It comes through Graham Hill Bend, and then into 30s. We just had a note that we got to boost the volume up, and it's pinned. It's pinned as far as it can go. So I'll just try and project my voice a little bit more, and hopefully that will be enough for us. Mishra now through towards Hawthorns, and this is the fun sector of the track. Floating it up through Hawthorns, then down through Westfield, dropping off the top of the hill into Dingledale, and through Sheen. Does nicely through Westfield. Clips the edge of the track there. Does well. And just got a wheel on the grass there. Manages to keep it all together. And sets a 1:14.3 to the second sector mark. That is the fastest sector so far. He had the fastest first sector as well. This comes through clearways underneath the bridge. And towards Clark Curve. And across the line. So Ujit Mishra will set the first lap in anger here. Through to the line, and it is a 39.6, so a decent landmark, decent benchmark for the guys to chase. Remember, the fastest lap we saw in practice was a 38.2, so definitely a ways to go yet, and he's just thrown it wide there at turn 1, so that's not quite going to be a good follow-up. So what we'll do is we'll quickly catch up with the rest of the field. Turmo Mike Coulston doing well, Dane Liccardo into 4th, Cracker not a good lap, he's out of misfire there. Steve Bolger coming through Clark Curve. We'll see what he can do. About 0.3 of a second away in the middle sector and in the first sector. So this lap is going to be outside of where he wants to be. And it's a 40.6. So not as well as where he'd like to be. And he hasn't gotten the nose tucked in through Paddock Hill Bend either. So it's going to be another few laps before he gets another go at it. Let's see who else we've got here. Haywood, Jalumaya, oh, I'm not even going to bother. That's just Brendan Ross. We'll see what Brendan Ross can do as he comes through, where is he on track? He's at Sheen, and now coming through Sterling's. He's not doing well, so I'm going to leave him where he is. Looks like Cam Rutledge is on another outlap. Ooh, Nathan Higginson, he's a bit further down the order. This isn't going to be a lap that Higo's going to vault up the order with. We'll keep eyes on him as he crosses the line. Already 5 minutes gone in this session, by the way, so it's gone very, very quickly. Oh, and we do have Luke Joyner. Luke Joyner has managed to make it in the server, so it's good to have Luke with us, another Class B competitor. Another one of the Rob Harvey Motors MHRT machines. Unfortunately, the main one... Oh, actually, I'm going to interrupt myself. Excuse me while I interrupt myself to use a Murray Walkerism, a Murrayism. But Turmo has set the fastest lap of the session. He's gone into pole position as he spins it at Druids, but he's on a 39.5. So does very, very well to eclipse Ujit Mishra. Quite a nice job there until he spun it at Druids. And we've got a spin here. That was Ujit Mishra at Graham Hill Bend, it looked like. Leonard Gersel, though. Leonard Gersel into 4th place in the Chevron as the Class C machine. So very, very nicely done from Gersel so far. I completely have no idea where I was going with my prior thought. Yes, Brock Harvey is the only one of the MHRT stable that's missing, and he's the namesake of the stable. Of course, the MHRT team being part of the Harvey family. And it's unfortunate that Brock, after he put in all of that work into this mod and getting it up and running and all the tires squared away and building these beautiful cars, he's not been able to manage to get it to a race, it seems. So if you are watching, Brock, and I hope you are watching, it'd be great to get you back out into one of these cars again. As much as they were encouraging me to race tonight, I felt responsible for broadcasting this action, especially to our Wildcat fans in the audience. Brian Walsh, Manuel Centino, as Leonard Gersel just pulls into the pits. So it would have been fun to get out for a race, but someone does need to run the stream, and I knew that if I didn't run the stream tonight, it wasn't going to happen. Bolger looks like he's gearing up for another run. So he has a few more laps in the tank. Here's an interesting one. Cracker, half a second up on his PB to the first sector mark. He has Dane Liccardo just ahead of him as well, going into Hawthorns. And this is a little scary as they come down through Pilgrim's Drop. You want to make sure that as the Class A car, you get around and ahead. And he does very nicely there. Reduces any complications of having the Class B car ahead of him through one of the fastest, most difficult parts of the circuit. As they go line astern through Westfields and down into Dingle. Dane taking very liberal use of the track limits there. And as they come back up the hill through to Sheen, Cracker does very nicely to keep it on circuit. He's still up on his PB, only 2/10 away from the pole time at the moment. And with the Class A power behind him, he should be able to mow down some of that time through clearways. It will all be down to how he gets through Clark Bend. Nicely on the inside, gets the power down nice and early. This could be a new fastest overall lap. This could see him vault from 12th up into the lead. And it does! Great work from Cracker. He's got a 39.3, which puts him a 10th ahead of Termo at the minute. While that was going on, Steve Bolger still in 3rd place. Ujit Mishra now into 4th. Let It Grossel in 5th. Mike Colston sitting very high up in 7th now, because Brendan Ross has just eclipsed him. Just by going ahead of him there. What we'll do is we'll catch up with Steve Bolger. He's half a second away, so we'll leave him where he is and see if we can find another story to pick apart. I think we might have one here in Ujit Mishra. It's a fascinating battle for the Class A overall pole. Well, the Class A pole and the overall pole. It looks like Termo has the fastest run of the Class B cars, as Mishra does very well through Sheen. He's 31 thousandths of a second away from his PB and only 1/10 away from Cracker. So this could see Bolger maybe sneak up ahead of, Mishra sneak up ahead of Bolger, or even Termo if he sticks it together through Clark. A little bit of a dip on the entry. Didn't quite make full use of the exit at Clark Curve. We'll see him come across the line. And it's agonizingly close, a 39.7. Not seeing the 38s that we saw late in practice rather. So I wonder if the track conditions gone away a little bit. Another point that I will very quickly make is that we've lost Will Devonish from the timing screen. It seemed that he had not set a lap, because he hasn't set a lap. I was very intrigued to see that he was not on the timing bar on the side, but as you can see, he's already up 2/10 on the pole time to the first sector, coming through Surtees. This will be a impressive lap if he can keep it together, but he does have the power section of the lap to go here, so that Class B car is going to be losing a little bit of a top end as he floats it through Hawthorns. So he's got to really work the nimbility of that Ferrari 312P through Westfield, tags the curb on the outside very nicely, dropping through Dingle. Now getting the nose tucked in for Sheen, using all the road on entry and on exit. Does very nicely through Sheen, 7 thousandths of a second behind the pole time. Now that's the problem though. Cracker gained a lot of time in this last sector here, using the power of that Class A machine through clearways. Can Will Devonish? No, he doesn't. He bails out of it straight away. So he's obviously seen something or caught something or missed something that he's not liked. So he's given it away. We've had a question in the live chat. Who's Brendan Ross? We'll bring him up on screen for you, Scott Nolan. Brendan Ross is this guy. Haywood, Jappelmeyer, Finger, whatever. He's just being a pain in the butt is what he's doing. Great looking car, awful name. The least he could do is make it something easy to say on stream. But no, he's not. So we'll stick with Rossi for the minute. As he comes through Pilgrim's Drop. That mattress sounds impeccable. If you missed the feature last fortnight on the Matra, it was a bit of a wiggle come through Hawthorns. You can attribute its incredible sound to a single piece specially forged exhaust system that they put together, not in parts, but as a single complete unit, as Rossi really gets the rear out there through Sheen. Finger looking good, says Scott Nolan. Thanks, Scott. Your input is appreciated as always. What a sound. That's one thing that I really do love about these machines. They sound so viscerally incredible. And Rossi comes across the line and he's down in 6th. So with 2 minutes left on the clock, a lot of the drivers will be starting their penultimate lap, or they will be on their penultimate lap now. Catch up with Matt Cecil at the minute. He's just about to cross the line to start what will be his penultimate lap, providing he doesn't bin it or find a reason to go to the pits. And he's actually improved very nicely, up half a second on his PB into 6th place. Now that's something I just very quickly noted there. Steve Bolger, he's just come out of the pits, so he's going to be very tightly run to see whether or not he can get another lap in. So we'll keep abreast of that. Urgent Mishra has jumped into 2nd place, 9,000ths of a second behind Cracker, and he's run it wide through Paddock Hill Bend, so that'll be his last effort. He won't get another lap in after that. So Urgent Mishra will finish the session no higher than 2nd place after missing the pole by 9,000ths of a second. Unfortunate for Urgent, but he's just let through Turmo. Turmo won't get another lap in. This will be his final lap. I think he'll be the last one, the first one to cross the line. So we'll stay with Turmo through this last section of track. And he's up by a 10th on the pole time, but down by a 10th on his PB. Class B car doing very well through the first sector of the track. Now it's where the power gets in, as we see Ujit Mishra make a meal of Surtees in the background. Turmo has also got Will Devonish behind. We're yet to see a lap time from Devonish in this session. Nicely through Hawthorns is Turmo, using almost all the road on the outside, not quite going all the way out. And then through Westfield, using all the curb on the inside, really riding the inside there. You can get a lot of extra grip or extra purchase on the inside, and then floating it through Sheen very nicely, using all the road. We'll see a second sector time, and it's up. It's up by 2/10 on the pole time, and almost, 200ths on this PB. Now remember, Cracker was very quick through this final sector, so this will be the telling point of the track for Turmo. Dives it into Clark Curve, uses a very wide line on exit, but he's going to tuck back in and hug the inside, try and keep as much pace going as he can. He crosses the line, Turmo, he goes top! He goes top with a 39.2. Well done, Turmo. What we'll do is we'll see if we can catch the start-finish line, see them as they come across the line. Luke Joyner will be next. He comes across the line, and he goes into 9th. There he is. Actually, I'll see if I can get that overhead angle again. Bear with us. We're doing this quite live. And I know I said that I shouldn't be doing these sort of things live, but hey, c'est la vie, you know? There we go. We'll see. Oh, this isn't the right one. Not that one either. God, I'm so bad at this. It looks like Rhodey's about to come across the line. Here's the angle that we want. That's actually Cam Rutledge. Cam Rutledge jumps up to 9th. Does well. He's just set a 43.2. Sits him very nicely between Brendan Ross and Luke Joyner. Who else is still on track? We have Matt Cecil and Steve Bolger. Now, Steve Bolger is going to be the interesting one here. They're just about to come through Clark Curve now. We'll just catch them on the very top of your screen. There's Matt Cecil, and there's Steve Bolger. Cecil looks like he was on a PB from the sector times. He'll come across the line, as does Bolger. Cecil jumps up to 5th ahead of Leonard Grossel, and Bolger goes to the top. Bolger goes to the top. The very end of the session, the last lap of the session, a 39.2. Well done by Steve Bolger there. Does very nicely to get that pole time. And we've got one more car on track as we just have a quick look at Steve Bolger. Awesome stuff from the Inverted Air Racing. One more car on track is Luke Joyner, and he's going to come and find his way into the pit lane. So a drama-filled session there with Ujit Mishra almost breaking the pole time just before the close of the session, and then Termo setting a brand new mark that was only just at the very end of the session bettered by Steve Bulger. Incredible stuff here at Brands Hatch. Well done to Steve, and I'm sure he's going to be very happy starting from the front row of the grid. Now, if you've been following our TCAC Le Mans Retro coverage over the course of the season, you know that we've been putting together a series of features for the broadcast. This week, we're having a look at Brands Hatch. It couldn't be anyone else. We're looking back at one of the John Wyer Porsche 917 drivers and one of the best drives in living and historic memory here. We're looking back on the brothers Rodriguez, Pedro Rodriguez and Ricardo Rodriguez. Enjoy this one. Two brothers destined for greatness. Two brothers suffering an untimely demise. The Hermanos Rodriguez, the Rodriguez brothers, were the first motorsport superstars of Mexico. Pedro Rodriguez de la Vega and Ricardo Valentin Rodriguez de la Vega put Mexico on the world motorsport map and inspired a generation of motorsport talent in the country. Born into a wealthy family in Mexico City, the brothers Rodriguez became a force at national level motorsport events on both 2 and 4 wheels. The younger brother, Ricardo, broke through first, winning the Riverside Sports Car event on debut at the tender age of 15, propelling him into the eyes of the international motorsport world. Pedro was making waves too, driving for the NART Ferrari team, sometimes alongside his brother. An entry to the 1958 Le Mans 24 Hours saw Pedro finish 5th overall, while Ricardo's entry was not backed for being too young. Seriously, Ricardo tried to enter at 16 years old. 16! But at 18, Ricardo returned to Le Mans and finished 2nd overall in the 1960 edition, driving for the NART Ferrari team. In doing so, he became the youngest driver ever to be on the overall podium at Le Mans, at 18 years and 133 days old. A record that still stands to this very day. The brothers made a formidable partnership, with the pair racing together and achieving podiums in events like the 12 Hours of Sebring, 1,000 kilometers of Nürburgring, and the 1,000 kilometers of Montelleri. Ricardo's result at Le Mans earned him a spot on the Ferrari F1 squad at the 1961 Italian Grand Prix, where he qualified on the front row on debut, becoming the youngest front row starter, which stood until Max Verstappen's effort at the 2016 Belgian Grand Prix. He impressed in a slow Ferrari during the 1961 and 62 season before taking a drive in a Lotus 24 for the non-championship Mexican Grand Prix. Unfortunately, during the first day of practice on his home circuit, a suspension failure in his Lotus 24 saw the car pitch into the barriers, killing him instantly. At 20 years old, one of the brightest lights of the 60s had gone out. Pedro withdrew from the weekend and took time to focus on his business as a car dealer in Mexico. But he couldn't stay away from the track forever, taking a win in his return race at the 1963 Daytona Continental 3-Hour. The following year, he won it again, as well as winning the Canadian Sports Car Grand Prix. Pedro's F1 career, on the other hand, hadn't yet taken off, with uncompetitive runs in the NART Ferrari and Lotus machinery, before a full-time drive in the 1967 series with Cooper saw him win the opening round at the Kyalami Grand Prix in only his 9th F1 race. A series of drives in uncompetitive machinery saw him move his eyes towards sports cars, landing a ride outside of the Ferrari family in John Wyer's Ford GT effort in the 1968 Le Mans 24 Hour. Driving with Lucien Bianchi, the pair won in convincing fashion, taking home a comfortable 5-lap victory over a pair of Porsches, while their direct competitors suffered reliability problems and didn't finish the race. This drive caught the eye of John Wyer, who took over the factory Porsche 917 program for the 1970 season. Signing Pedro to drive alongside Finnish driver Leo Kinnunen, the John Wyer Porsche outfit went on to win the World Sports Car Championship for makes in both 1970 and 1971, with Pedro and Kinnunen taking 8 wins across those 2 seasons. The most famous of these victories was the 1970 1,000 kilometers of Brands Hatch. On a sodden day in Kent, Pedro was unlucky to pass under yellow flags on the first lap, earning a penalty early on in the race.
Brands Hatch, before the black flag, I was running second. After, I was 12. So I had to drive very hard, as if the track were dry. I went through the field and took the lead, and I lost it when we changed drivers. I took it back again and went on to win by 5 laps.
During his time with Porsche, he continued to compete in F1 with BRM, taking an incredible win at the 1970 Belgian Grand Prix. Dueling with Chris Amon for the majority of the race at the old Spa-Francorchamps circuit, Pedro won by 1.1 seconds at an average speed of almost 242 kilometers per hour or 150 miles per hour. He took one more non-championship win in the 1971 Spring Trophy race at Alton Park. Driving a Ferrari 512M in the 1971 Inter-Series event at the Norris Ring, Pedro had a tyre come loose, pitching the car into the barriers where it burst into flames. Despite being extracted from the wreck, Pedro died at the scene. He was 31 years old. The Rodriguez brothers are widely considered to be two of the best drivers in Mexico's history. While their careers both met tragic ends, their legacy lives on, with the Magdalena Mixicana race circuit in Mexico City being renamed the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the Rodriguez Brothers Autodrome. Two brothers racing together once again. You know what would be great? If I had my microphone on for the last minute or 2 minutes of me explaining things. That's okay, because I made a pretty big mistake in that anyway. So a few things on that feature. Firstly, it is unfortunate that both Ricardo and Pedro met such untimely demises in accidents that perhaps with today's safety measures in both car design and in circuit design could have been avoided. It does go to show how far we have come with safety in motorsport. And it was because of this style of racing, because of Group 4 and Group 6, that safety started to become something that really pushed to the forefront of people's minds when it came to motorsport. And it was the work of Jackie Stewart predominantly, who and a few other drivers as well, Jackie Ickx as well, who really changed the attitude of safety in motorsports. And we'll talk a bit more about those stories later on in the series. One or two notes on that feature of the Rodriguez brothers. Firstly, Ricardo Rodriguez, he set a number of records for being the youngest to achieve something. So we already made mention, the youngest overall Le Mans podium getter at 18 years and 133 days. That record still stands, and I am not sure, but I would hazard a guess that record is either still stands or it was very close to being beaten for the class podium as well, because it was only a few years ago that Julian Anlauer, as a 17 or 18-year-old, took home a class victory in the GT-AM class at Le Mans. So we'll have to double check on that one. Also made mention that Ricardo Rodriguez was the youngest F1 pole sitter up until Max Verstappen bettered that mark at the 2016 Belgian Grand Prix. And he was also the youngest points getter from 1961, when he got his first F1 points, all the way through to the year 2000, when a young man by the name of Jenson Button became the youngest point scorer as a 19-year-old. So a few long-standing records for Ricardo. Something I came across in my research is quite a few sources saying that Ricardo was on track to become a future world champion. So it was very, very sad that his life and his career was cut short at his home event at the Mexican Grand Prix, that he was only running in the Cooper because Ferrari had chosen not to attend because it was non-championship. So it was very unfortunate for Ricardo and the Rodriguez family. On Pedro's achievements, Pedro, of course, this race at Brands Hatch was probably the most defining wet race in anyone's career. We made mention in that feature that he got an early penalty and then came back to win by 5 laps. It was ridiculous. Chris Amon, who was pole sitter for that race, by the way, in the 512, he commented after the race, "Would someone please tell Pedro that it's raining?" Because no one else could get to that level of pace, but with the rainy conditions. On the Spa victory as well, which also featured Pedro versus Chris Amon, that win in 1970 was the last Formula One Grand Prix, I think, on the old Spa circuit, the 14.1 kilometer circuit, and it was the fastest recorded average speed for a race in Formula One history, right up until I think Monza a few years ago. It's just an incredible amount of pace. 241.3 kilometers per hour as an average speed to come down to a 1.1 second gap at the line is kind of amazing. We are gearing up for the race session here at the Grand Prix of England, the Grand Prix of Great Britain, the BOAC Brands Hatch Endurance. I'm Michael Zalavari, coming to you from Endurance Chat Media. We will be joined by the race very shortly, I hope. Just seeing what's going on in the server. And it looks like we are just having a little bit of a reset. Just going through a few little things before the race session starts. So I'll keep padding along for a little longer. Pedro had a really interesting career, actually. He ran every Le Mans from 1958 up until his death in 1971. He only finished twice, one of those being his victory in 1968 with John Wyer's Ford GT, and the other one being very early on in his Le Mans career. Now, interesting thing about his efforts at Le Mans in that Ford GT was that the Le Mans car, the one that he won in, the Ford GT40 Mark 1, was the second chassis to win Le Mans twice. The chassis was the winner the following year in 1969, and we'll talk a lot more about that race in a future feature, because that race is probably the best Le Mans that no one's ever thought about or heard about. So we'll definitely bring that one up. But he was normally a Ferrari driver, so he used to drive for the NART team as part of the North America race team. Was actually sent over to America as a 15-year-old in boarding school, so that's how he managed to get his start over in America. Drove NART Ferraris, 512, the 312 as well, for a little spell. and then got picked up after being dropped by Ferrari or spurned by Ferrari for his F1 seat. Got picked up by John Wyer's Porsche team, and then the rest is history. It was a friendly intra-squad rivalry rather, between himself and Joe Sievert, another one of the John Wyer team drivers, a Swedish driver. And they were very much in competition between the two of themselves. Interestingly, John Wyer actually wanted to pair Pedro Rodriguez up with Jackie Ickx, but Jackie Ickx ended up going to Ferrari for the F1 team. So that's why we didn't get that dream team. If we had that dream team in that car through that period, they would have won even more of everything. So yeah, very, very enthralling, very interesting careers both of them had. Unfortunate that both of them were cut very short. And yeah, it's a shame, but it's great that their legacy lives on with the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez and the great tributes and the foundation, the Scuderia Rodriguez Foundation, that keeps their memory and their estate alive. We are almost ready for the race session here. We're just getting geared up in the final moments. The grid is just forming up, so we'll take you there now. Here is our pole sitter, Steve Bolger. Our B-class pole sitter right next to him, Turmo. And then C-class will be led away by Leonard Gerusel as we look at this field getting put together. It's certainly a lot drier than it was in the BOAC 1,000 kilometers of Brands Hatch all those years ago, and certainly a lot more pleasant for those driving it, as we're away now on the formation lap. We've got a few. Is that someone doing a 360 on the back of the grid? It was, and it looks like we've had a server reset. So we'll just bring up our handy race information tab again. 50-minute race this evening. We'll see at least one pit stop. There were inklings of perhaps 2 pit stops tonight. Not due to fuel, but specifically due to tires. A lot of drivers struggling with the tires this evening, possibly due to the fact that it's a more flowing, more open circuit compared to what we've seen in the past, with tracks like, for example, VIR, the Grand West, with the cutout a lot slower. And then other tracks like Macau, a lot tighter. And then on the other hand, tracks that were more like Sebring and Monza, which were very open and a lot of high speed section. So it's a very much more a flowing, floaty, dancing sort of circuit. It's very much like the top of Bathurst, actually. It reminds me of, except the walls are a lot less closer around Brands Hatch compared to Bathurst. So the reason for that restart was that Lewis Wedding actually crashed out of the game. So he's managed to get back in, it looks like. I'm just going to have a quick look through. And there is Pedro Rodriguez. So we are good to go. You can just hear the dulcet tones of the machines in the background. Will Devonish cuts back to his pit box. Just seeing where everything is. That's not what I want. That's what I want. That'll hopefully be the view we get as we watch the start. Last few cars coming to the grid now. We're just waiting on Will Devonish. There he is at the back. And is Lewis Wedding going to pop in? There he is. So we have a 15-car grid split up into, I think, 5 Class A's, 5 Class B's, and 5 Class C's, if it looks correct. I think that is actually the case, which is very uniformly done, very nicely done, as the field sets away on their formation lap for this evening's race. We'll start with Steve Bolger, a cracking lap in qualifying to take pole position at the death. A 38... Ooh, that's not the right time. He did really well, is the point. 32 thousandths of a second separating him from second place, which is Turmo. Very nicely done in the Class B machine, using the nimbility of the Ferrari 312 to find his way onto the front row. Next is a pair of Class A cars. Cracker in the Wildcat 917 looking to hold on to his championship lead, ahead of Ujit Mishra making his return to the series in the Singapore Airlines Ferrari 512, the Wildcat machine. Matt Cecil leads out of 5th. Class B second place, by the way. Did a nice job to jump up to that position at the very end of qualifying. And he's ahead of the Class C pole sitter, Leonard Grossul, who's dropped down from Class B into the Chevron, the Levi's International Racing Team Chevron, the wildcard car for the evening. Mike Coulston is in the Saudi Camel. Great to have Mike with us. We weren't sure we were going to have him tonight, but he's in his yellow Chevron. And it's Brendan Ross. I refuse to say that name. Brendan Ross out of 8th place in the Matra. Karen Rutledge follows him up in 9th in the second of the Matras this evening. And then it is Luke Joyner, managed to just get into the server after Windows updates. He says the laps in qualifying are the only laps he managed. So look for Luke to gain some pace as the race goes on. Dane Liccardo starts out of 11th in the machine, the Ford GT. And he has roadie for company on row 6, a roadie out in the Matra. Nathan Higginson's the last of the Class A runners down in 13th, the Equip Higginson Ingenierie. And then we have Pedro Rodriguez, or Lewis Wedding, changing his name to suit the theme of the evening and the feature. Thank you very much, Lewis. And Will Devonish, electing not to qualify, specifically so he could start from the back. So he set himself a challenge for this evening. It'll be 50 minutes of racing tonight, so plenty of action to look forward to as the field just grids up for the Grand Prix of Great Britain. Hopefully we will see some great action tonight across all 4 classes as we see the battles throughout the pack. Field is formed up. We are moments away here from round 6 of the TCAC Le Mans Retro Minis. And there we are, we're all right. And it was a great start from Steve Bolger. Cam Rutledge in the mid-pack went nowhere. But it looks like Steve Bolger... Oh, no, we got a spin in the background. It's Dane Liccardo, and he's gone around. He's hit the wall already. But it was the driver out in front will be Steve Bolger as they dive through Paddocks Hill Bend. And there's another spin. It's Ujit Mishra right at the back of the field. He's managed to get away from collecting anyone, but he's dropped right to the tail end of the field. That would have been exactly what he didn't want if he was going to challenge for the victory. Field comes through Graham Hill Bend now. And it is Steve Bolger from Cracker from Turmo. So Crackers have done very well there to jump in second place. Matt Cecil up to 4th. He's jumped a spot as well. And Leonard Grossul in 5th. Luke Joyner, Will Devonish, Nathan Higginson. He's jumped up 5 spots from the grid. So great start from Nathan as he runs wide through Surtees. Manages to keep it on the track very nicely. And he'll have the power to skip away from the Class B cars. But look at this. It's the MHRTs, the red Ferraris side by side. Through Pilgrim's Drop up into Hawthorns rather. And Will Devonish already up 6 positions from the tail end of the grid. He's had a mega start as he goes through Westfield for the first lap. Incredible stuff. Dane Liccardo spun off the line and Ujit Mishra spun through... and that's a wide line from Cracker there. He's going to drop a few positions as well. It's even wider from Brendan Ross in the background. So that's now Will Devonish up into 5th place, up 10 positions from his starting field. And he's going to make a pass here. No, he's not. He's looking very racy at the rear of Leonard Grossul. Remember, Grossul was the first driver not in Class A to win overall. So Devonish has a bit of a grudge against that and makes easy work of the Chevron coming down the main straight. They're 3 wide in the background, by the way. Nathan Higginson, Lewis Wedding, and Mike Coulston. Higginson very wide through Paddocks Hill Bend, giving a lot of space away and allowing Lewis Wedding to sneak on through. So it's been an action-packed first lap here at Brands Hatch as this battle pack begins to form up once more. It's now 4 with Luke Joyner dropping away a little bit. Not quite a Lola's room there, but he does manage to sneak through, does Higginson. And he's going to go around the outside into Surtees. Surely he can't get it done here, but he can. And he's going to use the power of that Class A machine to just nip away here down toward Pilgrim's Drop. So we'll leave this battle real quick. We'll just head up the front. just to see Steve Bolger and check in where he is in relation to Termo. There's Termo. Then this is the battle pack for third. Cracker from Will Devenish from Leonard Grösel, who's done well to stick with this group. Matt Cecil as well, just behind them. And then it was that battle pack we were looking at earlier. Nathan Higginson, Pedro Rodriguez, Luke Joyner going very wide through. Oh, there's contact with Mike Coulston. He just, Joyner just went wide through Westfield and came back onto the circuit right where the Saudi Camel was trying to be. So unlucky for the two of them, but they seem to have gotten on all right. Brendan Ross making very liberal use of Sheen's track limits there. As we've got Ujit Mishra and Cam Rutledge now at the tail of the field. Mishra recovering from that lap 1 spin. Just head back up to the front of the field now to see where Steve Bolger is and see this battle. Because it's not going away for Bolger. He's still got Termo right on his clacker as they come up towards Druids. And we'll just hold this shot here because I reckon if we keep an eye out, look at this. It's Leonard Grösel in 3rd place from Cam Rutledge and Will Devenish. I wonder how that's managed to happen. Don't normally see the Class C cars at these lofty heights, but Grösel has managed to sneak his way into 3rd and is doing a very nice job at the head of this battle pack. He's going to be in trouble here though as they come out of Surtees and down through Pilgrim's Drop. The Chevron doesn't have the pace of the higher class cars. He stays well out of the way. It'll probably nip back over to the right, the left rather, to get a ideal line for Hawthorns. He has had to drop to the tail of that group, and Higginson and Cecil are just behind as well. They're squabbling over 6th place though, so this is giving Grösel a little bit of a breather. As we've got Class A, Class B, and Class C in this little battle pack here. These guys behind are still side by side as they come through Dingledale and into Sheen. A little bit of contact there. They managed to squeeze through the other side all right. And they've been joined now by Lewis Wedding, who swoops around the outside. Nice opportunistic move from Lewis there, but that was some hairy stuff going side by side through Sheen. Back to this group at the front here, 3rd place, and it looks like Cracker's had an oversteer moment coming through Clark Corner, and that's dropped him behind Will Devenish, but not quite enough to slot in behind Leonard Grösel, who, by the way, sets his fastest lap of the race, so he's at the peak of what Class C can do. In fact, everyone in the top 6, 7, 10 setting their fastest lap that lap around, except for Termo, who has the fastest lap of the race globally with a 39.4, no, 39.6 rather. So that gap at the front is only 8/10. This gap, though, is very intriguing. Devenish is trying to skip away a little bit here. Remember, he started at the back of the field. He's done very well to come through the field and make his way into 3rd. But Grösel is really complicating things here for Cracker and Higginson and the other higher class runners around him. Because you'd expect, especially through these faster sections here, that the faster cars, the higher class cars, will just nip away. But this is complex here. This is complex coming into Hawthorns. It's 2 of them on the inside as Grösel in the slower car has to just ease his way out around the outside. Good work by the 3 of them there, Higginson, Lewis Wedding, and Grösel, to just not make contact or force each other off the road. And in fact, Grösel has to yield, and Higginson might have to yield as well to Lewis Wedding as they come through Sheen. Very nicely done, but Higginson's going to dive back towards the inside, and he's going to try and squeeze the nose in there. No, that's 3 wide contact on exit as they come through clearways. Oh, this is cracking stuff here for the mid-pack. Higginson can't quite get the power down to ease away, and it's gonna be all 3 of them in a battle pack across the line once again. Grösel got his ears boxed in there, trying to sneak his way around through the faster cars, and in the end, they just turned into a bit of a bumper car segment through that section. But in the end, it is Higginson who prevails over Lewis Wedding, and Grösel drops now down to 7th place. Frantic stuff, and we're going to leave that behind because this is turning on now at the front. A slow lap last time around for Bolger. 4/10 quicker was Termo that last lap, and he's actually gone for the lead. I was looking at the timing screens and I've missed the move. Wow, so Termo leads us away now through Pilgrim's Drop underneath the bridge here. Now, can Bolger make a dive to the inside? It looks like Bolger has not got the pace. I wonder if there's some damage on that car or something, because it looks like Bolger is lagging, is lethargic. Not quite getting over to the apex there through Westfields. And look, the gap's opening up. This shouldn't be the case. This shouldn't be what should be happening. Bolger should have the advantage as the bigger, more powerful car, even with the extra weight. But Turmo is doing very well here. He's opening up a gap as they come out of Sterling's and through clearways. That just shouldn't be possible. So it is now Turmo in the Class B Ferrari 312P from Brian Harvey panel repair that takes the lead of the race, ahead of Bolger, who was 8/10 of a second down last lap, and more importantly, a full second and a half outside of his personal best. He does look a little closer now, but it's just not the same level of pace that we were expecting from the Bolge, especially after what he managed in qualifying. Oh, we'll quickly leave that to catch Nathan Higginson very far off the track at Paddock Hill Bend. In fact, he was almost off in the paddock coming through the first corner. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. So, got very high on the crest there and just missed his braking. Couldn't get the front turned in. And you're always battling understeer. He actually made the wall there, which is a bit of a surprise. So, lucky it wasn't more significant damage for Higginson, but he finds himself now in 7th place. Oh, actually, we're going to go back up the front of the field. Or maybe not, because it looked like the gap was very, very tight. You could see on the timing screen that it was only 0.1 of a second as they came across the sector mark. But it's more than that now, as they dive back down through Dingledell. It seems like Turmo has the pace through the faster, floatier stuff compared to Bolger. Not sure where Bolger found that pace in that qualifying session. It must have been in the faster sections of the track. Perhaps through here, through clearways. But it doesn't look like the car has that same pace that it had only moments ago. So we'll leave them once again. We'll see if we can find the battle for third. Here is Will Devenish sitting pretty in third. He's 5 seconds away. He's been slowly eating into that gap for the lead. So Turbo last lap around a 41.3, a 42 flat for Steve Bolger. Will Devenish a 40.5, so gained almost a second on the battling pair at the front, as that was Cracker going very wide. And he was behind Lewis Wedding? I'm not sure. So Cracker now down to 5th. Gressel 6th. Higginson 7th. Mike Coulston in 8th place. Matt Cecil 9th. Luke Joyner in 10th. And then this little battle between Rhodey and Dane Liccardo over 11th and 12th. Then Ujit Mishra, who hasn't managed to find a way to recover from his early indiscretion. In fact, his last lap time, a 56.3 with a very long middle sector. And this was a very long final sector, rather. This was after setting the purple middle sector. So inconsistency is been the problem for Ujit. So hopefully he's been able to find, he will be able to find some consistency through the race. Maybe try and gain a few more positions. Cam Rutledge is our 14th place man, and the rear of the field is currently Brendan Ross. Looks like he's made contact with the wall somewhere, because that mattress front end is bent out of shape quite significantly. We are back at the front once more. Turmo from Bolger. Remember, these guys are not technically battling against each other. They are leading their respective classes at the minute, which is the more important, more important for the championships. Sure, there's bragging rights at stake between the pair of them. And I think if Turmo can notch up an overall win, he'll be as happy as a clam. But the important thing is where they are in relation to their class battlers. And for both of them, they are a full sector ahead, or not a full sector rather, they are the leading car in their classes. And that is the important thing. That is what gets scored for the championships. And unfortunately for the pair of them, that is what gets scored against their weight tally. So at the moment, both of these guys will be picking up another 10 kilos. Of course, we do have 37 minutes of racing to get through first. This is the man trying to chase them down. Will Devonish last lap didn't quite have the same returns. In fact, he lost a little bit of time to Steve Bolger that last lap around. Looks like Bolger's actually finally found some pace again. Setting a 40.3 last lap around. So he's trying to reel that gap down a little bit. In fact, what we'll do is we'll actually just keep our eyes on this battle. And the timing screen as well. Just to try and see and pick apart anything that's happening throughout the field. But this is where the intrigue is at the moment. And how good does that sound? The Porsche 917, the flat 6, sorry, the flat 12. Just an incredible piece of machinery. Last lap around, both Turmo and Will Devonish responded there. A 40.1 versus a 40.3 versus a 40.2 versus a 39.6 for Lewis Wedding. Where is he at? Here he is in 4th place. 39.6. Only the second driver to dip into the 39s. And so far, the top 5 cars are lapping pretty consistently in the 1 minute 40s. So they're stretching their advantage at the moment. You see Ujit Mishra in the background there? Oh. Sorry, Ujit Mishra in the background. That can't be right. Unless he's had another off. And he might well have a 2 minute 50 last lap around. In fact, that seems like it's a pit stop, not just an off. No, not a pit stop. Just a very significant mistake for Urgit, unfortunately. And here we are back at the front again. This battle is certainly closed up. Bolger seemed to have found something here. He's found some rhythm. He's found some pace. He's found something. And he has found the rear of that blue and silver Ferrari 312. Gap now at the front, less than half a second as they dive through Clark Corner once again, Clark Curve, and across the main straight. And it looks like we've lost a driver. It looks like we've lost Brendan Ross. Let's just see if we can quickly get what's happened to him. And it looks like it has been a disconnect, unfortunately, for Rossi. So much like the old endurance races of the past, mechanical reliability, or in this case computer reliability, has forced a driver out. 15 minutes down already, and it's gone in a flash, hasn't it? And this battle at the front has been the one that has been the enthralling one. And in the background there, you might have just seen a glimpse of Will Devonish. Last lap around, it was Steve Bolger who had the fastest lap of the top 3. By about 3/10, and Devonish lost a little bit of time, but again, it was Pedro Rodriguez or Lewis Wedding that has set the fastest lap of the top group. He will be on the tail of Will Devonish soon enough. Oh, as it looks like we've got Cracker dropping down the order. Whereabouts is he? He must have had a mistake there, and he has. Out of Graham Hill, he's hit the wall hard. Or he's glanced the wall, actually. But he's had a bit of a moment spinning it, almost getting back to the circuit. So that's why he's now dropped down to 9th. Just behind the Saudi Camel and Mike Coulston. Mike currently holding 2nd place in Class C after behind Leonard Gersel. He's 12 seconds in arrears. So despite the fact that he is 8th overall, he's more concerned about that 2nd place in class. Matt Cecil is 4th in Class B as Higginson takes a very wide line through Sheen, which Coulston matches in the background. As we've got a fastest lap from Ujit Mishra. See, this is the pace that we were expecting from Mishra, 39.5. It's unfortunate that he's a lap down on the field. Because you can just see him in the background here. You can just see him in the background a shot behind Lewis Wedding. There he is. So he's got 2 trailblazers ahead of him to really make a mark. But here is the trailblazer that we've really got to be watching. The gap now at the front, less than 0.2 of a second. So again, it's Bolger putting the pressure on, while both Devonish and Wedding are turning the screws rather behind. We should be seeing pit stops in the next 4 or 5 laps, or 3 or 4 laps even for these guys. Remember, it's 50 minutes plus 1 lap, so they will have to go through an extra lap at the end of this, at the end of the time expiring. Through Sheen, Bolger looked much smoother through there. Even still though, gap at the front now out to half a second. So Turmo, despite running wide at Sterling's, Turmo seems to have something in that middle sector, but it's all gone wrong from here. That wide moment has really compromised his exit pace. And through Clark Curve, they go side by side. Bolger with the inside line and the power should take it at the line, but it's going to be very, very close as they come across the start-finish line. And it's a 1/10 of a second separating the pair of them through Paddock Hill Bend for the 11th time. And they both nick the inside curb, unsettle the car a little bit, but they do well to control it. And it is Steve Bolger now who takes the lead overall in this race. Very well done there by Steve, capitalizing on a little bit of a moment for Turmo. And that's all it took, just a little run wide out of Sterling's, compromised his exit speed. And that was enough for Steve to use the power of that Class A Porsche 917L to sneak his way past through Clark Curve and Paddock Hill Bend. Now it's a matter of, can Bolger sneak away himself and hopefully, for his sake, before Will Devonish in the background. Just the thing that I've noticed though, it looks like Lewis Wedding has dropped back significantly from the tail of that group. A 1 minute 45 last lap around for Lewis Wedding is the reason for that. So he's now even dropped behind Ujit Mishra, who, despite being a lap down, has some significant pace. So unfortunate for Lewis here. As it will mean that he's got to process some traffic to get back onto the tail of Will Devonish. And a little bit of luck up there as well. I'm not sure if you saw that. Sterling's just couldn't get the front ducked in nicely. So he's going to be slow around this corner as well. So here we are. Gap at the front. Steve Bolger from Turmo. That's 1.5 seconds now. Bolger's done well. There's Will Devonish. And there's Ujit Mishra. Another fastest lap for him. 39.1. Now, he's still a lap down, but he's putting in some cracking laps. There's that's Lewis Wedding, cosplaying as Pedro Rodriguez for the night. And there's Leonard Grosso, our Class C leader. So he's in a bit of no man's land. He's 10 seconds behind Lewis Wedding and 10 seconds ahead of Matt Cecil. Actually, no, it's Cracker who's the next placed car. There is Cracker, second place in Class B. And there's Matt Cecil, Nathan Higginson, and Mike Coulston. That's Luke Joyner. He's still getting some pace back after setting some more laps. There's Dane Liccardo. And that is Rhodey now coming across the line. He's well ahead of his teammate, Cam Rutledge, to the tune of 20 seconds. So we'll actually go see where Rutledge is now. Almost didn't see where Rutledge was. He's just coming through the final corner. And that is where the field sits at the moment. And Bolger seems to have done well in the second half of this stint. He's managed to pull away to the tune of almost, it looks like 2 seconds. The timing scoring is listing it as a second and a half, but it looks like 2 seconds. So it's enough of a gap at the moment, and with pit stops coming along very soon, I'd say we'd see the earliest on the next lap, but more likely in 2 laps time, we'll see a lot of the field come through. That could change the complexion of this race quite a bit. Closest battle on track is still this one between Bolger and Turmo. So the field has slightly spread out and settled just for the moment. In fact, it looked like Luke Joyner's had a problem because he's dropped from 10th place down into 11th. how good does that Porsche sound? In fact, to give my voice a little bit of a break, we are just going to have a listen to that Porsche roar around the track for a lap. It is a thing of beauty, that 917 engine, that flat 12. And it was a beautiful lap from Bolger as well. His first lap in the 39s, a 39.6. And now he's stretched that gap at the head of the field to almost 3 seconds. So he's really putting the work in, trying to stretch out a gap before the pit stop start. And we'll see that gap now. It's just 2.7 seconds over this man. And it is Turmo who sits in second place. Comfortably ahead of his teammate, Will Devonish, at the moment. But that gap, pardon me, has come down quite significantly. It was out to over 8 seconds earlier on in the race. But now it is down to only 4. So Devonish is coming on strong towards the tail end of this stint. And Turmo might be struggling a little bit with tyres and fatigue. There's a penalty for Nathan Higginson, I would expect, as we go to find him. That might be due to track cut violations. And we're going to see it here, probably on the exit of Druids. Oh no, it was in the mid-corner. Oh, all across the inside of the corner there. And that picks him up a drive-through. Now this could be awkward for Nathan, because he might have to take the drive-through and not be able to take a pit stop. Because we are right smack bang in the pit window. And in fact, there we go. There's our first pit caller, and it is Turmo. So we'll stay here. We'll see Will Devonish fly on by. There goes Turmo. Lewis Wedding flies on by. Ujit Mishra, who, remember, is still a lap down. We've actually got Cam Rutledge a lap down as well. So I'm not sure where Cam is. He might, in fact, be in the pits. In fact, that is exactly where he is. Oh, no, it's not. I'm a liar. Filthy, dirty, rotten liar. Leonard Gersel comes in. There was Cam Rutledge. Gersel comes in from 5th place. So he is still holding Class C lead. There goes Cracker. He drifts on by. There's Matt Cecil. And Nathan Higginson. Less pit callers than I thought, actually. So, and Turmo's already on his way out. So, he might even slot in to 6th place here. Just dips in behind Nathan Higginson. So 7th place for Turmo. It's not a bad return at all. Something to note as well, I just dropped in on the driver's briefing between qualifying and the race while you guys were watching the Rodriguez feature. The drivers have been told that if you're going to cause a collision by leaving the pit lane, that you must concede to the space. So keep an eye on the cars leaving the pits. They might have to concede to traffic, trying to make sure that we don't see any airplane crashes here. Bolger's continuing around. Now this is a surprise. He's managed to find a little bit more fuel in that car than I was expecting. But Will Devonish will come in from 2nd place, as does Lewis Wedding from 3rd. What about Ujit Mishra? He continues through. Cracker's still down at Sheen Corner, so that's a long way away from this leading group. In fact, it's 40 seconds from the lead. So quite a fair bit of track to cover before he gets away. But Steve Bolger, he hasn't pit yet. Alright, I got all very excited for a moment there. And we should see, there's Matt Cecil, he stays out. Cracker's in the pits. Will Devonish is on the move. Whereabouts is Turmo? He's behind Nathan Higginson. He's had to find his way through. That was very awkward. Lucky that neither of them made contact there. But this is going to see Turmo drop behind Will Devonish perhaps? Yes, indeed it is. So Turmo's dropped behind. Where is Will on track? There he is. That's the gap. That's a 3-second gain by Will through the pit sequence. And part of that would have been held up behind Nathan Higginson. But Turmo dives down the inside through Druids. They make contact. These are the team cars, remember? But this is for Class B overall lead. And Turmo sneaks his way through Druids. Devonish doesn't have a bar of it through Graham Hill Bend. They're going to go side by side on the exit here. And it's Turmo at the sector split, but not by much, as they come through Surtees and back up the hill. They're still side by side. This is cracking stuff from the pair of them as they come through Surtees and now down through Pilgrim's Drop. It's Turmo who's taken the inside line and who's taken the position, but Devonish is right on his wheel tracks coming through Hawthorns. Well done by the pair of them. They almost made contact a few times there, but they showed each other great respect, running side by side for effectively half a lap there. And it was so close. It was so close for Will to make that position. It was a 3-second gap before the pit stops, 3.8 seconds. So that's great, incredible stuff that Will's been able to put together to gain that position, to gain that time back. Back to the head of the field. Steve Bolger's coming through the pits. Matt Cecil will stay out for another lap. Turmo and Will Devonish are coming onto the main straight. Now, this will be intriguing. If we just have a look, there's Steve Bolger, and there's the chasing pair. And Steve is going to have just a little bit of a margin, a little bit of a cushion over the pair of Class B Ferraris. And it's not going to be much, though. It's going to be about the same as what he had before the pit stops. That's even with Turmo getting held up by Nathan Higginson and the pair of these two battling across that first half a lap. Dan Liccardo's found his way in 6th place, but he's yet to stop. Luke Joyner is also yet to stop. He's up in 7th. Nathan Higginson has stopped, and as has Leonard Grösel. So that's intriguing. Yes, so Grösel has actually just made that position. So that is actually quite a surprise. So Higginson has managed to short fill or do a short pit stop or short something there, because he's managed to find a way to gain that time back on Grösel. Or either that or Grösel's had a shocker of a pit stop, because remember, he was about 10 seconds behind the Rodriguez and Devonish battle. Now that gap's out to 20 seconds. But I reckon what's happened actually is Higginson has taken his drive-through penalty and not his pit stop. So that would explain how Higginson's gained so much time. And in fact, he's just picked up another drive-through penalty for track limits violations. So unfortunate for Higginson. Cracker is down in 10th. He has taken his stop because he was about 10 seconds behind Grösel. Then Mike Coulston, Urjit Mishra, he's up to 12th now. I wonder if he actually did take a pit stop earlier on in the race, as Lewis Wedding sets the fastest lap of the race, and it is a 38. Oh, I'm gonna excuse me while I interrupt myself, because these guys are kicking off again. It's the two MHRT machines, the two 312s, and it is Turmo now behind Will Devonish. So Devonish squeezed his way through at Druids to take what will effectively become overall 2nd place. So this is an intriguing battle now with Wedding setting a 38.7. He's really starting to play into this battle between these dueling MHRT cars. Thing is, they have Matt Cecil just ahead, who hasn't yet pit, and they've all got to catch eventually Steve Bolger, who's 3 seconds ahead. But they're battling amongst themselves at the moment. Turmo trying to wind his way around the outside at Paddock Hill Bend. But have a look at this just ahead. Steve Bolger just making his way past Rhodey and Cam Rutledge. Then there's Matt Cecil. Then there's the battle for 3rd, which almost has Lewis Wedding on the tail of it. So they fly through Sheen. What a great shot that is. And this traffic's going to complicate things here, because as you can see, Cam Rutledge ran wide at Sterling's, and he's had to dip and dive through the traffic there, has Will Devonish. And Turmo squeezes through as well. Lewis Wedding has to undercut the exit in order to get through there. They've managed to squeeze their way through. Now Rody will be the next target. And Matt Zessel, by the way, is not yet pit. He's run very wide at Paddock Hill Bend. That seeds position and almost cleans up Turmo. And he's going to try and defend from Lewis Wedding here. That's not going to be the right plan. Lewis Wedding, again, another new fastest lap. 38.5. So he's flying at the moment in that Solar Productions 908. He's going to play into this battle imminently as they've just snuck their way through Matt Cecil, who seems to be struggling with the rear tires there. You could see him get very wide through Graham Hill Bend, and Pedro Rodriguez, Lewis Wedding, he's not getting very wide at all. He's getting very much arrowing on the apex and takes third place away from Turmo. So that Class C car, you can see in the middle there, Rody, that's not for position. He's a lap down, but he's going to complicate things for Lewis Wedding and for Turmo. In fact, he's going to really complicate things for Turmo because Turmo hasn't got through on him by the start of Hawthorns. And if he doesn't get through on him before Westfield, he's going to be stuck behind coming down the hill. He has to squeeze his way through here. But now this battle for second is really livening up. It is Will Devonish, Lewis Wedding, and Turmos. They all clattered the curb at Sheen, separated cumulatively by less than 1.5 seconds. They come back onto the back straight and through clearways. And we've got 15.5 minutes left of this race, and it's been action-packed since the pit stops. Incredible stuff. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a stock take. No, we won't, because Will Devonish has run wide, and Bolger has responded at the head of the field, setting a new fastest lap of 38.4. But the man we're watching at the moment, Lewis Wedding, he's the one that's really got the hammer down in this group. Just tried a little too hard to sneak up the inside at Paddock Hill Bend. Locked up the front and got a little bit of understeer. But he is certainly the Porsche in that Ferrari sandwich at the minute. And he's certainly a very tasty drive from him so far. Gaps now, these three less than a second separating Devonish from Turmo. And the meat in the sandwich, Lewis Wedding, has been very competitive here. And he's really working the front of that Porsche hard. He seems to get a lot narrower exit. He's got a great exit there. Devonish forces him to the outside coming through Pilgrim's Drop. But it's going to be irrelevant because Lewis Wedding has swooped his way around and takes the ideal line into Hawthorns. So it is now Wedding from Devonish, from Turmo for second place. So they jump over the top of Westfield through Dingledale, and Will Devonish is having a look through Sheen. They're going to go side by side through Sheen. Will gets the inside line. They're going to go side by side. They don't make contact. They don't force each other off the road. Great racing from the pair of them as they go through Sterling's. Just a little touch there as Wedding cut across the front. This brings Turmo into it. They're going to go 3 wide down the back straight. Not quite, but it's still side by side between the two MHRT Ferraris. As they go through Clark Curve, Turmo has to just release a little bit. And it was all because Devonish got a better run through Westfield that started that whole chain of events going. Now it's 1, 2, 3. Take your hand and come with me. Wait, no, hang on. That's not right. They come through Paddock Hill Bend. This has allowed Steve Bolger to just skip away at the front. A 39.1 compared to 39.3s from this group. It's incredible stuff from this battling group as we come through Druids and into Graham Hill Bend on lap 22 of this race. You wouldn't know it's an endurance race the way that these guys are racing. They've been going for 35 minutes. Oh, sorry, 35 minutes. And they're still looking as sprightly and as aggressive as they were on the first lap. Now, it looks like Turmo's got a great run out of Surtees there. And he's right on the tail of Will Devonish. Now, this is letting the Wedding just get away. As Matt Cecil picks up a penalty, I'm going to assume that's for track limits violations. He's currently sitting in 7th, so that'll drop him well down the order. And Devonish runs wide. Devonish runs wide at Westfield. And that cedes position to Turmo. So it's now Turmo in 3rd place from Will Devonish. And now he's got the responsibility of trying to catch Lewis Wedding. keep in mind as well that while all this is going on, irrelevant for overall second place, this is the Class B league as well. So there's plenty to play for here. And I think the Ferraris, the MHRT guys, have just missed the trick because Wedding has managed to skip away just a little bit at the front. And in fact, that's partly in due to a purple first sector. A 39.4 for Turmo does not match up against a 36.8 for Lewis Wedding. So that's where his pace is at the moment. And Wedding has just managed to skip away just a tad in that 908. He's doing a very, very good job of keeping it there. Walshy's saying that Matt Cecil's penalty was for pit lane speed infringement. I'm not sure that Cecil was in the pits. Unless he's gone very long in his first stint. That would explain why he's now a minute behind these guys after they came out of the pits behind him. But hopefully, unfortunately for Cecil, he's going to drop down maybe even behind Mishra. In fact, we'll just get a quick glimpse of Mishra because he's made his way back up to 8th place. 7 seconds behind Matt Cecil and 27 seconds behind the next car in class for him, which is Cracker. And there's Matt Cecil taking his drive through. There is Cracker. And there's our Class C leader, Leonard Gersel. He's managed to have a thoroughly uneventful race after his first opening sojourns to the upper class battles. Actually, we're just going to leave him behind because this is where the intrigue is between Will Devonish and Turmo. If they can keep it quiet for just a moment, we might be able to get a bit of a stock take on the field. We'll catch Steve Bolger. We've got 10 minutes left in the race. We'll see him as he comes through Paddock Hill Bend, and we'll just hold that camera off there and catch the field. So there's Steve Bolger. There is Lewis Wedding, Class B leader at the moment. Turmo and Will Devonish. That is the squabble for Class B. And we'll just follow them as they come around the next set of corners. There is Bolger. We'll swing back and we'll catch Rhodey, who's a lap down. He's currently sitting in 12th place. Ahead of his teammate Cam Rutledge, who's in 13th. And it looks like we've lost Leighton Higginson as well. I think that might be due in part to the drive-through penalties. It's not fun when you're getting a penalty every time you go off circuit. There is Leonard Gersel. He sits in 5th place at the moment, and he's getting charged down by Cracker. So Cracker has managed to overcome that 10-second deficit to the Class C runner and get onto the tail. They will be battling for 5th place overall. And we have quite a while of a wait. In fact, we've got a yellow flag. I'm going to see if we can find out where that yellow flag is. And it's for Luke Joyner. And that looks like it's at Westfields. So we'll just have a quick look at where Joyner is. He's wide through Hawthorns. And then wide again through Westfields. Gets a wheel onto the dirt and just lazily spins that around. He's now gone a lap down. In fact, you can see the battle for 4th just ahead of him as we caught Lewis Wedding. Ujit Mishra off at Paddock Hill Bend. But here is the battle once again. They're at it again. And they're at a nip and tuck there. They're really being aggressive towards each other. Remember, these guys are teammates, but it doesn't look like they're a part of any team at the moment. They're batching and barging through clearways. Devonish sees the position once again to Turmo. They've been at it this entire second stint from the moment they came out of the pits. And they're going to go at it once again as they come through the first corner. And it's Devonish on the inside through Paddock Hill Bend. Doesn't quite get it done, but it's going to go on the inside to George. It's going to be a very late dive. Turmo gives him space. It's going to and Devonish gets the move done. But for how much longer? Graham Hill Bend up next. He's got the ascendancy this time around and seems to have the position for the moment. But it's been a cracking race from these two. They've really bothered each other the entire race. Again they fight. In the slipstream is Turmo. He goes left, he goes right, he goes left again down through Pilgrim's Drop. Is he going to wrap around at Hawthorns once more? Devonish covers the inside line. It's going to make him narrow though for the run to Westfield. And if Turmo can keep the momentum going, he might be able to make an audacious dive through Sheen or even into Sterling. Not quite though. Devonish gets a wheel on the grass, which is not ideal on the run up to Sheen. and it manages to hold on to position. There's a puff of smoke just ahead of this group. Not sure who it was. Turbo gets a great run through Sterling's. He's going to go around the outside as they come through clearways. He's going to wrap around to Clark Curve, and he does. So it's now Turbo, but he takes that wider line. Doesn't quite get the power down early with that wider line, but does get it down eventually. And they're going to go side by side down the Brabham Straight once more. This is amazing stuff from these two. Through Paddock Hill Bend, again, side by side. Much more well behaved this time. They're keeping it away from each other. This is incredible stuff. Turmo and Devonish giving Rosberg Hamilton vibes is what we're getting in the chat, and it's exactly that. Except with a little bit more respect, I think, from the pair. Great work from these two to keep racing at this limit for now 45 minutes. So we'll see if we can get a quick rundown of the field before they kick off again. Here's Steve Bolger. He leads the race. There's Lewis Wedding. He's second in the race, and they're setting almost identical lap times. There's this battle that we've been keeping track of, and I want to go back to it. I can't stop myself because they're so close and it's so engaging. But I can see on the timing screens that there's battles throughout the field as well. So we'll leave them there for the moment. In fact, we'll go find Cracker. We'll see where he is. He's got, he's past now Leonard Gersel. So he's now into 5th place overall. There's Leonard. There's Urjit Mishra. He's made his way up to 7th. So it's a sterling job from him. I think he took a pit stop early to repair some damage. Then there's Mike Coulston, Matt Cecil, and Dane Liccardo. Remember, Cecil had a drive-through penalty for a pit lane speeding infringement. So he's done well to slot back into 9th. There's Rhodey. He's got Luke Joyner for company. That shouldn't be a battle on track, but it is a battle on track. I think Rhodey might have had an off because Cam Rutledge is because that gap shouldn't have been as close as it was, and Cam Rutledge brings up the rear of the race. We've had 2 retirements. They have been Nathan Higginson and Brendan Ross, and here we are. This time, Turmo is ahead again. We have 5 minutes left of this, and this battle in particular has been incredible. I will just keep people abreast of what is happening out the front because that is full of intrigue as well. Steve Bolger was 3/10 slower than Lewis Wedding that time around, but he's made a 2.5 seconds out of the first sector this lap. It looks like Lewis has made somewhat of a mistake in that first sector. No mistakes from Steve Bolger so far. He holds the race lead at the minute, and with 5 minutes left, he looks like he may hold on for victory. These guys have finally cooled down just a little bit between the two of them. Turmo has managed to eke out a little more of an advantage, thanks in part due to a much quicker first sector than his teammate. And it looks like Devonish has actually had a bit more of a struggle this lap because the gap's now out to 2 seconds. So Turmo seems to have broken the back of the Devonish challenge. 2 very slow sectors. In fact, 7/10 slower in Sector 1, a second slower in Sector 2 for Will Devonish. And that seems to have put the battle to bed for the moment. In fact, I think it's broken the back entirely because the gap is now over 2 seconds. It's 2.1, and Devonish doesn't seem to have any fight left in him. Oh, Mike Coulston, no, we just brought you up on screen and you've hit the wall at Graham's Hill Bend. Oh, what a mess. What a mess for Coulston. Luckily, he's not lost any positions in class. Rhodey and Rutledge have been much further down than this challenge. So while he's getting blue flags for the second place man, Lewis Wedding, to wrap around the outside through Surtees, it is not affecting his position in class and thus won't affect his position, his points for the championship. That's still not exactly what you want to have happen with only 3 minutes left in the race. Great recovery from Urjit Mishra. He's done well after a spin on the first lap. And we've got a penalty. We've got a penalty for our second place driver, Lewis Wedding. And that's got to be for track limits. And we'll catch him now. He's coming through Hawthorns. Did he run it wide through Hawthorns on the exit? Yes, he did. All 4 wheels off the curb. And that changes the complexion of the race once again. Wedding was looking at potentially putting a challenge together for the overall win, but now he's going to have to come in to serve a drive-through, which lets Steve Bolger entirely off the hook. But more importantly, changes the battle for second in overall. Changes the battle for third overall to now be for second overall, which is now Class B overall victory. And it looks like, in fact, that challenge has gone entirely the way of Turmo, because Will Devonish has had a shocker of a lap. He's had a moment in the middle sector somewhere. Look at that, a 47.3. We're going to see if we can scroll back. We're not going to be able to scroll back fast enough, unfortunately. So no idea what's happened to Will. But that's really given Turmo a free kick here. Not just a free kick, a penalty goal. It's free. It's super free. He's going to have the Class B victory all to himself. It's incredible. After all that battling, he's managed to come out on top, and it's been well worth the entire battle. Interestingly now, oh, that's actually not interesting at all. I was saying, hey, those gaps are a little close, 26, but no, it's 26 seconds the gap between Cracker and Lewis Wedding. So the field's settled down now. It looks like it's finally settled down after a very enthralling second half of the race. But someone who has had a almost flawless race has been Steve Bolger. He didn't quite have the pace in the opening stanza of the race, but did very well to settle into the stint, took the lead partway through that first stint, and then has never been headed. He's going to start the penultimate lap now, so we'll get a 31 lap race around Brands Hatch. And honestly, it's been a stellar performance from Bolger, but I think when he watches it back, he will be very understanding with the comment I'm about to make, and that was that the show was stolen by the incredible battle for what ended up being second overall between Turmo, Will Devonish, and Lewis Wedding, going the way in the end of Turmo after a cracking battle, which saw side-by-side action for laps and laps and laps and laps and laps on end, and a penalty to Lewis Wedding right at death. This result should return Bolger to the Class A championship lead, with Cracker taking home second place in class, but unfortunately not enough of a points gap over Bolger to maintain the lead, question mark? I'm actually not sure on that. The difficulty here is because, of course, there's not enough cars between Bolger and Cracker that are Class A to really spread that point difference. So Bolger is just chipping away by taking these race victories, and it's slow going, but he should very much be up there for the next race of the season. It's been very well won by Turmo in Class B. He will come home, calamity forbid, as the Class B winner after a enthralling battle throughout the race. And a quick but well-deserved shout out to Leonard Grossel, who has jumped in a Class C car for the first time tonight and has put in a extremely solid race to pop out 6th overall, running as high as 3rd for a section early on in the race, getting into the battle with Will Devonish and Lewis Wedding and Cracker and Nathan Higginson. Unfortunately, unable to hold on against all of them due to the Class C nature, the lack of power, not quite making up for the lower weight around this track, which is a power-dominated circuit, to be fair. All about flow, sure, but definitely need the grunt to make use of the flow. But he's done very, very well to take what will be a very well-earned Class C victory. And we'll check in with our podium getters after, as they cross the line. But once again, Steve Bolger, flawless victory once more in that 917. He has been the class of the field in Class A and has really been untouched tonight. He's coming through to lap the Wildcat 512 of Ujit Mishra. I'm not sure if he was aware that Mishra was slowing down to let him by, but he does well enough. He doesn't quite, actually, he does. He does take the fastest lap of the race as well to go with his pole position. So it is not quite a Grand Slam for Steve Bolger, but almost everything that you could take. Bolger comes across the line in exuberant fashion to take the race victory. And of course, Autolista gives me the worst camera angle for that as he comes across the line. It looks like is that Will Devonish and Lewis Sweating? Yes, that is. That was the battle for third place. Turmo came through in second. Mike Coulston comes home a lap down in 10th, but that will be the Class C second place. Next driver we should see will be Cracker, who comes home second in Class A. And that's Luke Joyner. Managed to get out on Join Us this evening, so great to have Joyner along. And here's our Class C winner, Lennart Gersel. Flag-to-flag victory for Lennart Gersel in Class C. Well done there. Luke Joyner will come through to complete the podium in Class C. Then we should see Cam Rutledge. You can just see him at the top of your screen now. He comes home last of the classified runners in 13th. A lap down on the leaders. It'll be a little while before we'll see the fourth place for Class B, which will be Matt Cecil. And there he is. Ran very long in that first stint to take a brief race lead, but then dropped away with a late pit stop later on and a penalty for pit lane infringement. Dan Liccardo comes home 8th, and that completes the runners on the lead lap. Well, that completes the runners in total, actually. It was Steve Bolger once more took the victory, well-earned victory, and Turmo, we didn't catch him coming across the line, but we'll catch him now. A very, very well-won second place overall and a Class B victory for Turmo. Wow, what an absolutely astonishing hit out at Brands Hatch. That second stint was wall-to-wall action, and it just goes to show the quality of the drivers and the respect that they have for each other, that we managed to go mostly incident-free. There were a few little scrapes, a few little nudges with contact, but what an incredible race. And we have our winner here in the booth with us, Steve Bolger. Congratulations, what a race from you. Very well measured, and you take home with it pole position and the fastest lap. Well done.
Thanks, Floody. Yeah, it was getting interesting with Pedro at the end there, but he got a penalty, and that was pretty cruisy last few laps.
Yeah, so did you notice the gap closing down? He put in some cracking laps there towards the end of the race. Was that something that kept you on your toes towards the end of the race?
It did. I was just sort of measuring it a bit, and then it came down to about 2.5 seconds, and then we sort of went back and forward, so I didn't know how hard he was pushing or how his tyres were. But it was going to be interesting.
Yeah, it would have been, but unfortunately a penalty for him took him out of the battle. Were you aware of what was going on behind you? There was quite a bit happening.
I knew Turmo and Will were pretty close, but I'd only from what the boys were saying in the chat, couldn't hear, didn't see too much on track.
Oh boy, you're going to have a great joy watching that back, I hope. Back onto your race, and more importantly your championship, another win in the books. While that does bring you a little bit more weight, you've shown tonight that you can deal well with the weight, so well done. It's getting close at the top. You keep chipping away at Cracker's lead, and soon you'll get over the top of him. Are you focused on that championship?
Not really. I still want to beat Cracker, but just want a couple more people in A class to have a race with would be nice. And yeah, trying to not get beaten by any of the B or C class guys as
because you couldn't give them bragging rights, could you?
No, but I think I'm going to be heavier than both of them classes if we keep going the way we are.
Yeah, you be about that. Sorry for not joining you. You were almost very encouraging me to jump in and race, and I would have raced in Class A, but honestly, I'm glad that I did that broadcast, because when you watch it back, you'll see what was going on behind.
Well, I couldn't keep up with someone on a Switch controller during practice, so you were missed, mate.
Thank you. I'll take that one. Congratulations on your race win and pole position and the fastest lap and most laps led and everything else. Class A, Steve Bolger.
Thanks, mate.
And we have Turmo, the Class B winner, after a monstrous battle with both Lewis Wedding and Will Devonish. Turmo, what a race. How are you feeling after that?
Exhausted.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Take us through coming across the line after you've come through the pits, seeing Will Devonish in front of you, diving through Paddock Hill Bend. What goes through your head in that moment when you see your competitor just ahead? Because it must have been annoying, to say the least.
Yes, it was very annoying.
But you put all that annoyance to great effect. It was a great battle between the two of you. You had a lot of respect for each other. A few little moments in contact. What was the atmosphere like between you and Will in that late half of the race?
It was very friendly.
Somehow I don't believe you.
It was.
Well, with that, you actually closed in on the championship lead in Class B. So congratulations on that. Yeah, are you looking at the championship, or are you looking just to beat Will in as many races as you can?
Looking to beat Will.
I wouldn't have expected anything less. Congratulations on your second place this evening, Turmo, and on your Class B victory, a well-earned Class B victory.
Thank you.
And Class C victory in 6th place overall was Leonard Gersel. Leonard, congratulations. You were battling up with the higher class cars from the very beginning. You were in 3rd at one point. That was incredible stuff.
Yeah, cheers. Just trying to have a bit of fun, really.
Are you having fun? Did you have fun in the Class C car?
Yeah, it was good fun. Handled very nicely. Well, better than the Class B car in Sebring was my last race, I think.
Yes. Well, you blitzed the field, by the way. Absolutely stole it. Well, not stole it. You just torched everyone there. Not quite able to do that tonight. Is it because? What do you think that was? I know you're in a Class C car, but what made the Class C car so far off the pace in comparison to, say, Sebring or one of the tighter circuits where they've been a little bit more competitive?
It's just all the straights, really. Like I was having Cracker in front of me for the longest part of the race, I think, and every time we're in the back section in the forest and the corners, I'm just always beside him, catching up to him. But then on the straights, they just walk away with it.
And I think with the momentum as well, it would be very, very hard to even at your maximum be keeping up with the momentum that the Class A cars can put together. Either way. A compelling victory for you in Class C. Will we be seeing you back in the Class C cars, or will we be jumping around into another machine for the next round of the series?
I'm probably going to jump back into Class B, probably.
Probably?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Class A, Got to try all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon that's a great way to look at it. Well, in any case, congratulations on your race tonight. Hopefully we'll see you again in another machine sometime soon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks.
And that was your 3 class winners for the Grand Prix of England, the Grand Prix of Great Britain at Brands Hatch. An incredible race of the endurance format tonight. It went by so quickly. There was so much going on. That battle between Will Devonish, Turmo, and Lewis Wedding in the second half of the race, that will go down as one of the best TCAC battles, I think, in history, because that was just incredible stuff. If that doesn't come up in the yearly awards for ASR, then someone has not been paying enough attention. Next round for us will be next week. We will be back with the sprint format, heading to the 1972 version of the Imola circuit. So, of course, a period correct track for these cars, raced on by these machines, the Group 4 and Group 6 machinery. This is before, of course, the changes to Tamburello and Aqua Minerale, so we will see the pure, unfiltered glory of the Imola circuit. Join me next week for the sprint format. So it'll be 15-minute qualifying and 2 20-minute races. We'll see if Steve Bolger can push for Class A victory. We'll see if Will Devonish can come back from a tight defeat. And we'll see whether or not Leonard Gersel will join us once again. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. I certainly have. My voice hasn't, but that's okay. I'm not doing any vocal stuff for the next little while. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what happens next time out. I've been Michael Zalavari. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Peace out!